The Miami Heat made a roster move. Yeah, they signed someone to their roster. We'll talk about who that is, but the Heat had a ton of preseason roster spots open as we are about 2 months away from the preseason getting underway. September 30th is when training camp begins. So Miami is starting to add to their preseason roster. The player that they are bringing in is Ethan Thompson. Anthony Chiang and Barry Jackson from the Miami Herald had the report late on Wednesday evening. The Heat have now filled 17 or 18, it's a little bit unclear, of their preseason roster spots. But we're going to break down Ethan Thompson and where the Heat's preseason roster stands on today's show. I am Nic Rohloff. So that's why you subscribe to the channel, because we cover all Miami Heat news, no matter if it is a major trade report or a small Exhibit 10 contract like Ethan Thompson. We will have you covered. Subscribe to the channel today because we are continuing to bring you daily content every single day. All right, let's start by looking at Ethan Thompson's G-League career here, because he has spent the majority of his career in the G-League. And then we'll look at where he attended college and stuff like that. But he's been with the Windy City Bulls, the Mexico City Capitanes, and then the Magic G-League associate last season. But he started his career in basketball playing for the Beavers at Oregon State in the Pac-12 from 2017 to 2021. Now, he did go undrafted following his final year, which, by the way, he led the Beavers to the NCAA tournament and then the Elite Eight. It was an unbelievable run. They weren't going to make the tournament. They ended up winning the Pac-12 tournament somehow, was the 12 seed, and then upset Georgetown in the 12-5 game. Then they take down the 4th-seeded Oklahoma State Cowboys, which featured Cade Cunningham. And then they won their next game to get to the Elite Eight. Why do I know so much about it? Well, I was in New York at the time, and they might have made me a lot of money gambling. So I like Ethan Thompson quite a bit. But he could be breaking out, because last season, playing for the Magic G-League team, he ended up making the All-NBA G-League third team and was in the NBA G-League Next Up game. So things are trending in the right direction for Ethan Thompson. This is a good-sized guard who is trying to find his way on an NBA roster. And with Miami having an open standard contract, maybe Thompson flashes in a major way during the preseason in training camp and gets elevated to that 15th roster spot. That is what he is hoping for, but Miami takes the flyer on the former guard from Oregon State. So before we look at some more stats, grade the signing for me. Pin comment on today's show. How would you rank this move? Scale it 1 to 10 for me. Decimals are appreciated. No rookie scores. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thompson flashed a lot of positive things last season for the Magic G-League team. He averaged 18.4 points per game, 5 boards, while shooting very efficiently from beyond the arc. Now, the efficiency from the field wasn't great. 40.2% is not ideal, but you'll look at that 39% mark from deep and you're quite excited about that. But he actually was much a better scorer the year prior, playing for the Mexico City Capitanes. He averaged 22.8 points per game during the 2023-24 G-League season. And he has predominantly been a G-League guy. He's really never played in the NBA at all. He's been in the G-League. He's been in Summer League, just trying to find a way onto an NBA roster full-time. And now he'll try to do that with our squad here in the 305. But this is a big guard. Like, at Oregon State, he was the point guard. Now, in the NBA and the G-League so far, he's been more of a 2-guard, and he really isn't playing with the ball in his hands as much as he did in college. But this is a guy that is capable of forcing mismatches. And sure, he's changed his game a little bit in the G-League to fit the modern NBA of guards that just shoot a lot of threes, and that's where the predominantly amount of their shots come from. But I remember when I was watching him at Oregon State, he was awesome at forcing mismatches, getting switches, getting smaller guards on him, and then using his frame, which is a pretty good frame for a guard, to back them down, get to his spot for a little turnaround mid-range shot 8 feet away from the basket. Point is, at college, he was very versatile the way he could score, but now he's really developed into a solid three-point shooter that we'll get to watch during the Heat's preseason game. Also, Puerto Rican descent, Ethan Thompson, Heat just announced this past week they will be playing the Orlando Magic in a preseason game in Puerto Rico. More to come here in just a second, but grab this Heat hoodie while it is still on sale. $15 off at chatsports.com/MIA hoodie sale. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Take advantage while the sizes are still in stock right now. One more time, MIA hoodie sale at chatsports.com, $15 off. So after this Exhibit 10 contract given out to Ethan Thompson, where do things stand for the Miami Heat? Well, they currently have 14 standard contracts. You're allowed 15, so you have one more standard slot open on your roster. You also have one two-way contract open on your roster. The only two-way deals you have is with Vlad Golden and Myron Gardner. Remember, you get 3 two-way contracts. They also now have 2 Exhibit 10 contracts, which would allow them to bring in players for the preseason and into their training camp. That is where Ethan Thompson lies. Exhibit 10 contract guys are eligible to be elevated to a standard contract. There are certain players that I know a lot of Heat fans would consider bringing in for a two-way contract that are not eligible. Drew Smith is one of them. It's either a standard contract or nothing. The other one would be the player Miami has had in their building all week long in Kai Jones. If you remember, just 2 days ago on Tuesday morning, we made a video about Kai Jones, how the former first-round pick was in Miami the entire week for a workout. Today is the last day that he is in Miami. The Heat brought him in Monday afternoon, and it was reported by Barry Jackson that he is going to be staying in the building at the Kaseya Center until Thursday. And let's go circle back to Kai Jones, because he was a first-round pick in 2021, same draft as Ethan Thompson, out of Texas, 19th overall by the Charlotte Hornets. But things went kind of awry for Kai. He went psycho on social media, looked like he was on drugs, if we're going to just be quite honest here. He was on social media sweating, talking nonsense, requested a trade, but then was just waived by the Charlotte Hornets, missed the entire 2023-24 season, but then returned to the G-League/NBA last year, where he spent time in the G-League for the Clippers squad, then gets signed to a standard contract, gets waived, then joins the Dallas Mavericks for the final 12 games of the season, where he was very, very good. I mean, in those final 12 games, he played over half of the minutes in those games, 21 minutes a night, averaged 11 points and 6 boards off the bench, and shot extremely efficient from the field. He expresses elite athleticism. He's a great lob threat. He's a solid rebounder. And if his head is screwed on straight, this is a player that has a lot of talent that Miami's developmental staff could get their hands on and try to elevate to the highest degree. And we know this Heat developmental staff is among the best, if not the best in the NBA, with how they have developed some UDFA guys like a Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson. The list goes on and on. So be the GM for me. Do you want to sign Kai Jones? Type S for sign, type P for pass. We're rounding out the show here in just 1 second, but I want to get your thoughts on Kai Jones before we ended up closing out the show. The truth is, I think there is no downside on signing Kai Jones. So even though Miami just signed Ethan Thompson to an Exhibit 10, I would do the same thing with Kai Jones. Jones is ineligible for a two-way, and I doubt Miami would sign him to a standard contract to move further away from the luxury tax. Now, the Heat could technically waive and stretch Simone Fontecchio, save $5 million, get underneath the luxury tax, and then sign Kai Jones to a standard deal if they wanted to and stay underneath the luxury tax. But I really like Fontecchio, and I don't really want to create dead cap hits of $2.7 million the next couple of seasons. So I would offer Kai Jones an Exhibit 10, and if you feel that strongly about Kai by the end of the month, well, then maybe we can revisit the Fontecchio wave and stretch idea. But to me, I think signing Kai Jones on an Exhibit 10, there is no harm in that, so I would certainly be willing to do that. And if Miami does make another roster move, like signing Kai Jones, we will have you covered. So subscribe to the channel for daily Heat content, and you'll never miss a thing around this basketball team.